All right, man, the chat room, for some of you new, has been fun to watch today. Somebody said, what's going on today? It's a full moon or something, but it's been crazy. Josh Furlong will try to help settle us down a little bit. KSL Sports, KSLSports.com, the sports director, beat writer covering Utah athletics. Josh, what a nice, decisive, emphatic win for yet Utah. They just seem like they never change.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent, right? Like they get in there, they do their job. It doesn't really matter who's under center and everything, and they found a way to kind of do that the last few years. In years past, when they were going through their transition in the Pac-12, it wasn't so much that, but they've really hit their stride and have found a way to just kind of consistently do it at a high level, and more times than not, you can't doubt Kyle Whittingham.
What is the difference that you see in Isaac Wilson between the quarterbacks that they had to roll out that were not named Cam Rising a year ago that could not move the ball at all?
Yeah, I think in large part his pocket presence is so much better. He gets in there. He's not fazed by the pressure. He comes in and does really well to make sure that he's going through his progressions. He's going through different things that way where he's not phased by it. Last year, your two quarterbacks, they would have their read, and if their read wasn't open, they didn't really know what to do. And so it became a struggle for them to be able to get the ball, or the ball out, I should say. And so you're seeing much more of that progression and being able to go through his checkdowns or doing whatever he needs to be able to make the right read. He's also supremely confident in his ability. He understands that he can hit tight windows. Those windows are much quicker at the college level, obviously, that they close faster, and he's trying to figure out his touch. But for the most part, he's a guy that isn't afraid of the moment. He gets in there. He's got a similar kind of competitive drive as Cam Rising, got a lot of moxie, and comes in there and has a lot of the support of his team. So you didn't see a lot of that last year where they were really trying hard to just kind of get some sort of life and trying to get something going. And so it's been a much more freeing moment for Utah, even though the same situation is present with Cam Rising sitting on the sidelines.
Josh, did you make the trip to Stillwater?
Yeah, I was out there.
Okay, what were your impressions, man? That's one of the, I guess, probably more top of the list mentioned places as far as just toughness and great crowds and things like that in the league. Obviously, Utah made that look like nothing because there's teams that have been in the league for like 20 years that can't, even with great teams, win there, and they go and do it with a backup quarterback of all things. But what were your impressions of the Pokes experience?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great venue. I was excited when this game was scheduled. This became one of those that personally, like, I wanted to go see. I wanted to see a true college town and kind of how it worked. The venues are great. The tailgating is great. The fans are, they're passionate inside the stadium, but they're incredibly friendly and welcoming to everybody around. So from that standpoint, it was a really fun atmosphere. Similar to Utah's game last year against Baylor, it was just scorching hot. It was really tough. So, I think that was the hardest aspect of it. I think they were better prepared for it this year than they were last year. I know a lot of people got burns and they didn't really, have the right stuff to play on the turf that way. So I didn't get the same feedback from this time where it was as bad. I mean, it was still hot, but no, it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun time, or I had a fun time out there.
I saw that back in early September, you wrote a story, like a feature on Isaac Wilson. An inside look who the freshman quarterback is, what drives him, and how Zach Wilson's path in football defines a lot of who Isaac is, and we know the connection there. What does drive him?
He just, he's got some of that drive where he wants to be, better than his older brother, right? He wants to be that. Like a lot of people want to pin him down and say, oh, he's Isaac, Zach's younger brother. That drives him, but he's just always had kind of that mindset, talking to his, his dad and talking to his coach. He's just always wanted to just go out there and have fun, right? Like he loves to play football. It's not necessarily work for him. And it's still early. It's not like he's trying to, get into these high, these depths of football where he's got a lot relying on him. But he just goes out there and he has a lot of fun. he can throw an interception, and his dad said he'll joke on the sidelines, which, rubs people the wrong way sometimes because it sounds like he doesn't care. He absolutely cares. He's a humble kid. He knows what he needs to work on. He sees what he needs to do, but he's not afraid of the moment. He's very confident, and he wants to be able to be the best quarterback that he can. And he understands that he is, right. In high school, there were very few people that could stop who he was, and he knew it. And he was very confident in that ability. You're starting to see that as he gets into the collegiate level where, there's guys in that room when he came in that had more experience in the playbook, but he still went in there and he tacked it. He went in there and he wanted to do everything he could to be in the best position to be able to succeed. And it worked. He became the backup, and clearly now he's the starter in as long as Cam is out. But this is a guy that works hard in his craft, and he just wants to be able to be the best player that he possibly can be.
Josh Furlong with us, KSL Sports in Salt Lake City on the Utah Utes, and, of course, an impressive win in Stillwater. If you don't mind, Utah State, how much are you – and we'll get back to Utah, but how much are you locked into what they've done, and what was that like when they made the decision to bolt the Mountain West?
Yeah, this has been an interesting situation with Utah State here because for the longest time it looked like they were going to be passed over. They have a few things that are going on in their department that don't make them the most attractive athletic department right now, just with what's going on. And so it became kind of the worst scenario for a lot of the people there to think, we may be left in the dust. And then suddenly it just kind of turns, and Utah State somehow is the team that is kind of holding all the cards, so to speak. It's still, it's wild out here because nobody has really said anything official. It's all still been kind of hush hush outside of, sources from national media, and trying to be able to lock that in. We've gotten our own sources that say things have happened, things have been signed, the deals are all done, but nothing is official come out. And then today we find out in that lawsuit that went between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West that they're putting that in there as the official declaration they've signed. So it's still a little tricky. I know there's many people that were, advocating on their behalf to be in the best position possible. And right now they think that the Pac-12 is that. I don't know what that looks like. Clearly we'll see what the ramifications of a 7-team conference right now are. But I think Utah State's trying to find itself in a better situation, and they feel like the Pac-12 right now is that spot.
Josh, back to the quarterback situation with Isaac Wilson. Seeing as you didn't really know anything about Cam Rising, we didn't know anything about Cam Rising until he did a radio interview later in the year and be like, listen, my knee was destroyed. The finger, obviously not as big of a deal, but will they say anything about his legitimate availability? Because there was a little bit of this last year of like, well, he might be ready by a certain point in the season. And here, this injury far less severe. And I'm kind of getting the same vibes just from outside the circle.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Whittingham has always been a guy that doesn't want to talk about injuries unless they're season ending. He finds it as a competitive advantage to withhold that information. And unless somebody, namely the league, enforces something where it's a unified or a uniform, I should say, injury report, he's just not going to do it. So it's been tough to get anything official. There's different tricks and nuances that we've created as beat writers to get some information. But it's not always that easy, right? You look at it in this situation on Saturday, a lot of the intel was saying that he was going to go. He was going to at least give it a shot and try to be in there for at the very least one drive and see what could happen. And then they flipped the script. So it's one where he will talk a little bit more openly about Cam just because he is a highly visible spot. But he just doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't see an advantage in it. He did mention on Monday that there's just not a lot of velocity or zip on the ball, and so that's kind of what they felt that Isaac was going to be better. They gave him a better shot. So honestly, it's kind of wearing. It's taxing on a lot of people. It's taxing on us as reporters trying to get this information, and then it having changed, multiple times. But until there's a mandate from the Big 12. Brett Yormark or college football as a collective, this is the way it's going to be. And some people want to call it gamesmanship on his part. And maybe there's some of that, he can still hide behind that. It really was a game time decision. They really were trying to find if he could go. It just doesn't matter of, trying to figure out how that shakes out.
What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Arizona as they now loom next for Utah? Great wide receiver, obviously. Really fun quarterback. Beyond that, it looks like a team that's got a new head coach and a lot of question marks. Utah's obviously very confident right now, Josh. 10-plus point favorites. Just what do you expect to see this weekend?
Yeah, first off, getting Arizona at home at Utah, that bodes well for Utah. They love that environment and being able to have it, especially with how last year shaped up, where they were coming off an emotional loss to Washington, felt like they could get that. And then Arizona just beat them up. But this Arizona team, I feel like they have the pieces there. It's just not as complete as last year. Yeah, I think they've got a great head coach. Obviously, Noah Fafita is a phenomenal quarterback. McMillan is a phenomenal receiver. But it's outside of them. That's kind of it, right? They've got pieces. They can do some things. But if you can kind of negate what those two players do, it feels like Utah has a really good shot. And any other teams like Kansas State absolutely took advantage of. Defensively, I don't think they have the guys to be able to compete, and that becomes a big worry for them where they aren't able to stop a lot of what Utah's able to do, whether that's Cam Rising or Isaac Wilson. It just becomes a challenge where they need other guys to step up, and I just don't know that they have that yet. I don't follow it as religiously, but from afar, that's kind of how I've seen it.
By the way, I loved your tweet, Ross Dellinger, when he talked about the suit between the Pac-12 suing the Mountain West, and mom and dad are fighting again, and the real winners are the lawyers again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is like a family affair when it comes to that. Josh, good stuff, man. Thank you so much, Craig.
I just want to ask him how hard this BYU-Utah Big 12 championship game is going to hit based on where we're going right now.
I mean, if that were to happen, man, this place would go insane. And I don't even know if we get a bye week before that rivalry game this year. And man, the chirping and the comments on Twitter are going to be insane. So I can only imagine what a championship level environment of that would be. But it'd be fun. It would be a lot of fun.
One thing, and you'll learn this, and people are learning how good Utah is, and we knew that before. We never doubted it, is that in the Big 12, expect somebody from the lower half or lower third is going to be very much alive when it comes to playing for the Big 12 or getting into the conference championship game. It's just like an annual right.
It's fun. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to learn a lot of these teams now more than I ever have. We've watched from afar, but it's nice to be able to get up close and kind of see it from that vantage point.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Great to get you on. Josh Furlong, KSL Sports, the sports director in Salt Lake City, plus a nugget or two. Even how it's, the Utah State news kind of just came out of nowhere for them, that they're a part of that lawsuit between the Pac-12 suing the Mountain West over penalty fees, et cetera, millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot going on there right now on the pro side of things. Got the new hockey team, new NHL team that'll be joining the Jazz as pro franchises. Obviously, you've got two teams now in the Big 12 together, and this Utah State this Utah State move to the Pac-12, which, in name at least is a jump up. I don't know other than that how much of it is, but I wanted to kind of touch on this with Josh there at the end, and you asked another question that took us away from it. So I want to return to this to tell you what.
You should have told me. Yeah.
No. But it's fine because I didn't have to put it in there with him. It was just I could have hit it, but it's still fine. Mike Gundy, in talking about Utah in the post-game press conference, or maybe it was his first weekly press conference, I thought this was just so damn accurate. He said, like, when you're looking at Utah athlete for athlete, if you're just looking at their athletes, you play teams in the Big 12, especially when Texas and Oklahoma were in there, like like Browse and Baylor were at their peak, where you're like, damn, like there's some dudes over there. And he said, like, Utah's not really one of those that you look at them athlete-wise and you're really intimidated or you're really all that gobsmacked by the guys that you're seeing. He said they just play he said they don't take your breath away. They just play really good. Like, that was his thing. There's nothing fancy or nothing all that special that you really, like, whatever. It's just, it looks like a normal team, and then you get on the field and they just play really good football, and that's basically all it is for Utah. And I thought that was the best way to sum it up. Of they don't take your breath away, they just play really good, and it's worked amazingly for Kyle Whittingham for a very long time, and it's working right now early in the Big 12. But yeah, they're just a really good football team, and that's all there is to it. And so we'll see if anybody's good enough to just jump up there and knock them off that pedestal that they're standing on at the moment. But easier said than done because, like Saturday, get the ball, they hog it. They drive it on you. They play great defense, and Isaac Wilson did enough to score and get that lead, especially early on, so that the Oklahoma State effort to try and come back was not able to happen. But yeah, I thought that was just a great way of summing them up. You're not going to be blown away by the athletes that you see, but you're going to be blown away by all the really good football that they play together. And